We've got some fresh new young talent doing some things that I know you haven't heard before.
1, 2, 3, listen.
You got to have the why, and we know our why. So
you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Yeah. Millions and millions of people have done this already. You can get help, you can get a roadmap, you can save a lot of time, money, and frustration. Welcome to the Value Add Podcast with K&K.
Hey everybody, Value Add with K&K. Crystal and Kenny here. Just want to say thank you so much for the support, for listening, the comments, everything. Keep it up. We'll keep going as long as we can.
And if you like what you're listening to, like what you're watching, tell your friends about it, leave us a review, maybe even give us 5 stars.
We love those.
That's how we can grow and continue to bring you guys value and spread the word.
Thanks, guys.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Value Add Podcast with K&K. And if you don't know me or you haven't tuned in yet, my name is Crystal Moore. I am one of the K's in the K&K, and I am also the broker and owner of Pacific Shore Capital, where we will get you the best commercial or multifamily loan in town.
Bam! And my name is Kenny Simpson, and I'm going to say I'm the first K because I'm the tallest. I'm not saying I'm the baddest, but I'm the tallest, which we can say yes. I do residential, if you don't know, 1 to 4 units. And damn it, I am good at what I do. And today on the show, Crystal, who do we have?
We have Nick Norris and Brian Gruber. They are the owners of Range Partners SD. They specialize in commercial leasing and acquisitions or sales if you need help with that as well. But beyond just being brokers, because I know, whatever, fine, half of San Diego is in real estate, but these guys are just like 2 really awesome dudes. Nick Norris is a former SEAL. He has tons of crazy stories. He knows probably all the SEALs that you guys might have.
We couldn't even fit them all in. We
Yes.
barely just got started, but we had an amazing conversation about him being a Navy SEAL. He was on the Tim Ferriss podcast. These guys are entrepreneurs. These guys basically are badass athletes. They also donate their valuable time to give back to charities. Brian's a badass swimmer. Damn it, he'll even train your dog, which Monty's excited about. So he volunteers at the Humane Society. And honestly, tune in because it's such an amazing conversation with 2 badass dudes. I was excited to hear about a SEAL because, I like to get up early and push myself. So I think I got a little bit more motivated by listening to these guys.
What he said. Tune in. It was an awesome conversation. We had a great time. And it was one of my favorite conversations. We could have kept it going, but we had to wrap it up after like an hour and a half or so.
So here we go.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Value Add Podcast with K&K, Nick Norris, Brian Gruber. Thanks for coming in today.
Our pleasure.
What's up, guys?
How are you all doing this morning?
Good.
We're here.
Yeah, I know we had like some conversation before this, but I kind of just want to jump right in and like have the audience know like what your background is and how the 2 of you came together.
Sure. Well, I can take lead if you don't mind.
Sure. He's like, sure. Start with the best.
So I grew up in Chicago, went to the Naval Academy, and then left the Naval Academy, went through BUD/S, so SEAL training out here. That's
Coronado?
In Coronado back in 2003. So I spent about 11 years, from like 03 to 13 in the SEAL teams on active duty. And decided to leave because my wife and I, we were talking about this earlier, decided to start having children. And I had been with her since high school. So,
Wow.
Yeah. So we postponed having kids for, a decade plus because I really wanted to be focused and committed to that pursuit, to being a SEAL and then going overseas and leading people in combat.
Wow.
So we had our daughter in 2012. I got out in 2013, went to USD. Got a master's of science in real estate at USD.
Wow. Okay.
So
cool.
Local school. If I knew USD existed before I chose the Naval Academy, I may have just come out here because it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Once you're here, you don't want to leave.
Yeah. And you're on the USD campus. It's like kind of
It's
surreal.
perfect.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
You're in
right?
another world on that. I went to USD for a few years. I never finished college, but it was like ridiculous.
Yeah, crazy.
So,
Beautiful place.
yes.
So I chose a career post-military that's pretty different, atypical of a SEAL.
Yeah.
Just wanted to do my own thing, kind of create a new identity. I thought real estate was interesting. It was entrepreneurial. It was going to get me in tune with the business community in San Diego quickly. So did that and went into tenant rep brokerage. Been doing that for the last 7 years post-transition. And I met Brian originally at a climbing gym. So like bouldering, rock climbing is a big deal for me. It's a huge part of my life. And we met at a climbing gym. I guess I maybe I look like a seal, but I think I also have I have like I don't think so, but I have a bone frog, a colt, like kind of a seal tattoo. It's very synonymous with guys that are in the teams on my ribs. So he probably noticed that. He was had been aspiring to go through Buds through the OCS program. We hit it off in that capacity, and then I will let Brian take it from there because he has his own
That's
story.
when the story starts.
Yeah, we connected at that
Brian.
point, but I will pass it off, Brian.
Yeah, thanks. So kind of similar birds of a feather here. Grew up in Northern California. I swam competitively. That actually kind of took me out of a small town setting, and Redding's not that big. I mean, we've got the Sundial Bridge, Whiskey Town, Shasta Lake. That's about it.
Yep.
Very outdoorsy.
Yeah.
But I swam club competitively. That took me to San Luis Obispo, where I did my undergraduate study at Cal Poly.
Okay.
After I was done swimming there and graduated, I kind of went into this weird little phase for a little bit because I fractured my leg, did a closed tib-fib fracture in a soccer game. That definitely took me up to like a 9 out of 10. So I'm not sure where the 10 out of 10 is. That's probably in your corner. But yeah, so kind of was in a challenging situation there where you're not able to like take care of yourself as an adult. So was at home with Gerald mom and dad for a while. After I healed up, kind of worked my way through osteomyelitis, which is a condition where you get a bacterial infection in your leg.
Oh my gosh.
Almost lost my leg. Eventually got 9 months post-surgery, and my knee just swelled up, was just, 8 out of 10 pain, like really severe. Went in, saw my orthopedic surgeon. He's like, you'll be in surgery tonight. Like, I'll see you there.
Closer? Yeah.
So I just kind of said like, hey, when I went through that whole process, this is interesting. Like I was 3 weeks away from losing my leg. So kind of looked at that field a little bit. It's this whole other world that people don't really know about or pay much attention to. It's called orthotics and prosthetics, essentially artificial limbs, bracing, that whole world. Thought it was going to be a lot more of working with wounded warriors, challenged athletes, people who have lost a limb but are still looking to get after it. Not the case. Much more of like behind the scenes. You're in the back working on devices, and that's about it. So I'm much more of a social animal.
Right.
So I decided like, hey, what am I good at? Like I'm good at mental toughness and physical fitness. So that kind of took me down the road that Nick mentioned, where I was pursuing an officer candidate contract as well as to go on to Buds thereafter. Pursued that for about 3.5-4 years while I was in grad school in the Inland Empire, just commuting back and forth between San Diego and the Inland Empire. Hate that drive now. But it was well worth it. It was something I wanted to pursue. When I was in college, undergrad at Cal Poly, I met my wife our freshman year. We dated for 6.5 years. We've been married for 7.
Wow.
So when I kind of finally earned my contract to go to OCS and then on to Buds thereafter, it seemed like I was putting my wife in a little bit more of a stressful situation than I felt was really appropriate. So decided to pass on the opportunity, kind of live up to the commitments that I had already made to my wife and our life together and starting a family at some point. Pretty quickly after I had declined my opportunity to go on, Nick and I met at the rock climbing gym.
So funny.
Just connected, hit it off, became good buddies over the next couple of years, and kind of this little serpentine route to working together. Was working in some different areas. Eventually got to the point where I was like, I'm kind of tired of working with people that aren't necessarily as focused or driven or just quality, genuine people.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, just made a decision for myself that I wanted to work with people who have those attributes that I was looking for. that they genuinely care about others, want to do good, want to be positive people, and leave an impact. So I just approached Nick and was like, hey, I don't necessarily care what field you're in. I'll learn it. I'll pay my dues. Let's just work together, and we'll take it from there, because I want to be around people like you and kind of do that together. So
I sent him on like a wild goose chase for like 2 years in between actually working together and becoming partners ultimately. So I've mentioned on previous interviews, like I was way into indoor skydiving. Like flying in vertical wind tunnels.
Crazy.
So and climbing.
Yeah.
We met at a climbing gym. We're talking about like we're married now.
Let's make a good couple.
So I introduced Brian to an indoor skydiving project that unfortunately didn't make it, but it was in downtown San Diego. And I knew one of the guys that was running training. So I was like, dude, you should just go and be an indoor skydiving instructor. So he did that for like a year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah, they blew this tunnel up multiple times. I mean, catastrophic.
Like literally blew it up. I actually was in it the first time they tested it downtown. They like turned it on for the first time. Probably not the smartest thing to do is get inside like the tunnel for the first time you're running it. It's new technology, but we went in it and it
so you're flying around and just.
We were flying. I was like, it was super fast. So like,
so you knew like it's a little,
it felt a little sketchy. So like I was being a little timid. I mean, I was off the net, but I was definitely not wanting to move around. The buddy that I was flying with was flying head down in front of me, and it like detonated. Like the turn vanes ended up delambing, and it like auto shut down and dropped that guy like onto his back, and like fiberglass came up through the net. There's like if you've ever been like in an iFly tunnel, they have the wire net. Yeah. Like so everything got blown up through there, like fiberglass over everybody. So it's hilarious. So that's what I told Brian. I'm like, yeah, you should totally do that for like 2 years.
Oh my
God.
I tore my meniscus on that job. I got hit in the face with a crowbar. I mean, it was a nightmare. Like I fractured my nose.
So as that tunnel had literally,
so you literally paid your dues.
Yeah, it sounds like buds or something. It's like, gosh, it's like, yeah, it's another one. Yeah.
It was they were trying.
Do you guys still do that stuff now? Or is it?
Did it recently.
So I hadn't flown. So I flew in a competition over in Japan about a year and a half ago, and then hadn't flown for like a year. And then I recently was invited out to a YPO event and was just there to talk. And they were flying in the tunnel in Mission Valley, so I went out and.
Oh, this one right over here.
As well.
Yeah, so I flew with a couple buddies that I hadn't flown with in a while. So like I was afraid I was like totally gonna forget how to do it.
Right.
But it's like riding a bike.
It's like muscle memory, though.
Yeah.
You just do
so you guys doing all the tricks? You can do all the tricks and all that stuff?
I'm a terrible flyer, but I'm a good instructor. Like, it wasn't open long enough for us to even really learn how to fly for people that, like, had never done it before.
Really?
But I'm really good at, like, keeping people from killing themselves who are doing it for the first time.
Because that is a little... I never... We have it there, but we never went, but you did. But it looks a little gnarly.
Super fun.
It is, huh?
It's really cool. It's amazing just making little adjustments with your hands or things like that. How big of a difference and impact it makes. Like you can fly straight at the wall. You can go up or down. Right. I mean, it's insane.
It's like
it's a lot of fun.
It's like surfing in that, and I'm not a surfer, but
I could see that.
Lots of time to get little incremental improvements in your capability.
Yeah.
So it's a
commitment.
Yeah, and they call it a skill-based sport. It's not a thrill-based sport. Like, surfing is like, hey, it's thrilling, right? But it takes a tremendous amount of skill, and you got to commit yourself wholly to it.
Yep.
Flying seriously in a wind tunnel, which not many people do because it doesn't pay the bills.
Yeah.
And it's expensive.
Super expensive.
It is really expensive.
Surfing's a lot cheaper.
It is.
Way cheaper. Yeah. Climbing's a lot cheaper, too. So I have now diverted back to my pursuit in bouldering. I have a home wall, so I can climb at home. And
very cool.
Going outside costs me gas money, and that's about it. So it's much cheaper.
So you guys, you're climbing now? Both you guys?
I haven't climbed for quite some time, but...
Why not?
I've been doing jujitsu quite a bit. So that I did that in graduate school. So a buddy of mine that we were in class together, he's like, I need a training partner. I was like, I don't know how to do that. Period. I've never taken a martial arts class at all. And he's like, well, I'll teach you. And I was like, oh, okay. So we roll. So he's a brown belt, which is just below black. Yeah. He's a black belt now. but at the time he was a Brown, and we trained for like 2 years out of his garage.
Whoa.
So when I got down here, Nick's brother-in-law was like, hey, I'm going to this jiu-jitsu school out in Point Loma with Rodrigo Maduro. You should come out sometime. I was like, oh, dude, I'm psyched on that. Let's do that. Because it had been a couple of years since I had trained. So I get on the mat. Like, I'd never been to a school, never been to academy, none of that. And I show up like day one, and they're like, Tim, who's this guy you brought? Who's this white belt? And he's like, oh, he like trained a little bit in graduate school.
That's awesome.
In a garage with his friend.
And they're like, dude, how long did you train out of that garage? I was like, oh, like 2 years with a brown belt. And they're like, so you've had 2 years of privates before you came here as a white belt. Yeah, you're not a white belt.
That's cool.
And I'm like, whatever. I just come to like learn and have a
Give
good
me
time.
the black belt, yeah.
And just like bro out all the time. Like that's all I'm there for. So that's kind of been my pursuit for
You're digging on that.
yeah, for a while. But I did kind of develop a little bit of cauliflower ear, so I'm like a little bit scared now because I don't want to like end
You
up
don't
with
want
these
the, like-
big old
Yeah.
fat ears and just like
So you're
can't hear
doing
anything.
the full on like you're battling then.
You're train like
Yeah.
if you're hurting your training partners, you're kind of doing it wrong. Because if you hurt them, they can't train, so you lose a training partner. Plus, when they come back, they're gonna be pissed at you
Right.
and like want to hurt. And there's always somebody better who can just murder you. So it's like kind of like be a little bit more humble and just learn the techniques and participate, learn.
Takes good stamina, I bet, right?
It's a different type of
Is it?
stamina. So like if you're a good runner, your first day on the mat, you'll be gassed, and then vice
Yeah.
versa. So I've like been on the mat forever, but I've kind of been going back to running a little bit more. I'm just like, I can't run anymore. I'm such a fat kid right now. This is ridiculous.
You got to do like the Rocky training or something.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
For sure.
I lived in San Francisco for a few years, and I thought I wanted to like do boxing. And so you would do this like training program and then like have a boxing match at the end. It was kind of fun, but they would do the whole Rocky training. That was the whole thing, like the running in San Francisco over the bridge and the whole thing. So it was definitely tough. Yeah.
So Brian's a super humble athlete. So
I could tell.
Yeah, yeah.
Very
Those are the people
capable.
who are
Oh, I
always
can tell.
like the
Yeah.
best athletes ever.
You
They're
know-
like,
you
yeah,
know-
I
you
do
know
a little
when
bit
you know
of.
somebody's a good athlete is when they're like always trying something new because they've mastered something in a way and they're like bored. I gotta get master something else. And the next thing I know, I'll talk to him. He'll be like, I don't know what you'll be doing, but
There's plenty of people that just wipe the floor with me.
yeah, but your skill where you can go in and still like hang. You know what I mean? So
He's
Our-
humble, loyal, disciplined. I mean, like all those things were the qualities that I saw in
drew
him.
you guys together.
Oh, for sure. I mean, when the tunnel finally imploded and he was looking for something else to do, I remember grabbing breakfast together. And the goal of the breakfast was really just to talk and figure out, like, hey, man, what would be cool? Could I be helpful or,
Yeah.
help guide Brian? And he said, well, I'd be stoked to learn more about what you're doing and work with you. I mean, humbling for me that somebody would want to work just so in an industry that I'm in solely because of me. So that's kind of how we connected. I mean, it was Brian had zero background in commercial real estate and brokerage. As you know, I was in the same situation, several years prior to that when I exited the military. I had zero experience in commercial real estate. I think my experience in real estate pre-grad school was like I bought a condo downtown
Right. Yeah.
at the worst possible time in like 2005 in San Diego, right?
Oh,
so like
gosh.
not a real estate guru by any means. So like I knew nothing. I was a poli-sci undergrad. So I had to learn it from the ground up. I thought it was challenging and ultimately we connected because we're like-minded people. We trust each other. We're loyal to each other. And, I just liked the way that he was built and the way that he carried himself.
Seems like you guys are really on the same page. Like that's huge. I think a lot of people look for that for a long time and they don't find it in a partnership.
Yeah.
And you see a lot of partnerships
We were talking about
that
that
aren't
before.
working. Yeah. You
Yeah.
see so many partnerships that don't work because I think they're more about the business or making the money rather than making sure that they're on the same page. Because I always tell Kenny, you have to be careful with partners. he's been the perfect partner for me as husband and wife. But whenever we are thinking about outside partners, it's like, what happens? How do we handle things when things go wrong? What do we do when we're in a challenge? Because when it's good, everybody's happy. But when you're facing challenges, how do you deal with those things? It's so important to be on the same page.
Yeah. You see people's true colors when things get stressful.
Yes, absolutely. We saw a lot of that in the last downturn. So,
Sure.
yeah.
I mean, I my previous life, I mean, that's what we train for in the military. You train in very high stress scenarios to be prepped for high stress scenarios when you're overseas. But you see people's true colors when you go through that type of kind of stress inoculation.
Yeah.
It's good. I think we should do it more on the outside.
I was just going to say that because that's like amazing training just for life. It doesn't matter what situation you're in, whether you're in battle or you're at home in a battle with your spouse or your business partner or client or whoever it might be. It's just like really, those are, I think, life tools that would be great to have in any scenario.
Yeah, tough to do it on the outside. It usually takes real world stress. Like, it's not practice. You usually only see that level of stress when it's really happening to you in a financial or professional aspect.
Yeah. I guess if we all had to go through boot camp, maybe that would help.
Right. Yeah, it started tough. You know, people always say like, I'd like to take kind of that that military perspective on training and inoculating the stress to my company.
You just can't.
It's tough. You have to. I mean, it is tough because like it's game day every day, right? You're not practicing on the outside. Like we train up in the military to go overseas, and then it's game time, and you can make a lot of mistakes in training and learn from those mistakes. It's tougher sometimes. You have real money on the line on the outside, but you know it's doable. It's just you need to be creative in how you
simulate that.
Yeah, you simulate it for sure.
Yeah.
How long, question for you, how long when you join, like you're a SEAL, so obviously it's like another level because you're probably what you're putting yourselves through or whatever in combat, but how long do you think it took you from where you enter SEALs and then to feel like you're put through situations, you know, mentally, physically, the whole thing emotionally, where you start to develop or your body starts, I don't know if you're training yourself or how does your body start to really change at your mind where you can start adapting to these like situations?
Oh man, I think you're always adapting. Yeah. And I'll put this out there, and I probably always do this now when I talk to people. You know, I as a SEAL, you know, I had the opportunity to serve in that community, and it's a phenomenal community, and we go through a very, very specific selection process. But I served with a lot of guys overseas that were non-SEALs that were, I mean, awesome, amazing human beings, super courageous, saw more combat than I did, were, you know, greater warriors than I ever was. And, you know, I would aspire to be like them. So I think every branch of the service and community has, you know, their own selection and kind of vetting process. But once you go overseas and you get in it, it ends up being really about how that individual prep themselves, how they're going to deal with a high stress scenario. And I think a lot of that is just how you were brought up in life. You know, how were you raised as a kid? You know, how committed you were to athletics and discipline. And then when you kind of found yourself on this path, you know, you end up going overseas and performing. But, you know, to answer your question and be direct, you know, I went through training 03. I didn't get to my first team until 05. And then there was an 18-month workup or 12 to 18 month workup to be able to get ready to go overseas. So there was a big runway of lead up to get to a point where, you know, I was first selected, you know, vetted, trained, exposed to a lot of stress, learned a lot of lessons. And then I was thrust into kind of my new guy tour overseas, where I'm still learning, right? Because I know nothing at that point. Yeah. But at least I was prepped at that point. I mean, it was multiple years of kind of prep to feel, I guess, competent and comfortable enough to go into a situation where it is life or death. I mean, like you're making decisions that you're making as a leader on the ground have a material impact on people. I mean, it could be the difference between somebody dying and somebody making it through a bad situation.
And it could just be like a minor tweak within a decision that could mean life or death at that point.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think
and
a lot
quick too.
Absolutely. Immediate. Like, you know, quick decisions, being decisive, making decisions that may not be the most optimal decision, but the best decision that you could make in that quick decision-making cycle.
Yeah.
That's what you really drive to in training. At least with us, it's, fail quickly. I mean, similar to being an entrepreneur, right? Fail fast. You make decisions, learn from your decisions, learn from your failures, and then just correct those as quickly as possible, and then take those lessons learned and apply them and not make the same mistake multiple times. We were always given the opportunity to fail, and it was actually an expectation to fail. If you weren't failing, then you're not pushing yourself to a point where you're learning. But if you make that same mistake twice, that's where okay, we're going to draw a line in the sand. Like you learned that lesson, but you should have learned that lesson, but you didn't. Now you just made the same mistake twice. So that's kind of where you draw the line, is like that you want to fail to learn, but you also need
you want to really learn.
You got to learn, right? You got to really ingrain those lessons learned.
Yeah.
No, I think, I think because it's funny, a lot of people that are successful athletes, whether they're famous or not, you can be successful and never be famous or big. You could just do a lot of things. I think a lot of those guys choose to be entrepreneurs too, just because you just have that. If you're going to go do jujitsu in a garage for 2 years, a lot of people need to go, well, I got to go pay the money and show up at the class, and it's Monday and Tuesday, and they need that push. You're like, just give me a garage and my buddy, and I'll figure this out. No, but you know what I'm saying? But that's what it takes. Like an entrepreneur, it's like, we're going to start a business in a garage, and it's a side hustle for 2 years, and we're going to grind it out until we go get an office. But I think being an athlete, like I played tennis and a bunch of sports, but tennis is a loner sport.
Yeah.
And I blew my shoulder out, but I was really good. But I'm running hills and hitting on a ball machine and training with people that were really good, but it was up to me to schedule it and do it. Nobody was like, here's the schedule. It's like I had to create it. I had to call the people and schedule the place. So I think that plays a role for like anybody in like business and life, It's
a different level of commitment. I mean, really, because like he said, for you to go with your friend and practice in his garage and train in his garage, that's a choice that you make every time. So I think a lot of people struggle with that. I don't really feel up to it today. I'm just going to, I'm going to just miss this one, or I can't really go. I don't feel like it, or I don't feel good, whatever that might be. It's that level of commitment, I think, like you said, it's just that drive to kind of push forward and keep going, and nobody's going to give that to you. It's really up to you to do it.
I think that journey is what, I was more motivated by the journey, the path to get to that end goal. That's what fired me up. And ultimately, I found that by immersing myself in that experience. Like, I wanted to be around the people that I was going through that process with. And that's what fired me up. And I even see it today. Like, I don't think I do anything I'm doing right now for like the end goal. I do it because I enjoy the process. Like, I enjoy the grind. I enjoy the ups and downs. It challenges me as an individual. I think it's a constant challenge, and finding something that inspires you to be better. That process is the cool part. That's what gets me out of bed every single morning.
And it definitely seems very intentional for you, because you were mentioning that you were really committed to being a SEAL and seeing that through. Just as I think when you decided, okay, I've done this, now I'm going to come back home and start a family with my wife and be committed to that every day. Because I was looking at a little bit of your bio on the Range Partners website and everything. And it's just cool to see that everything you do is kind of around your family and what's best for your family and your kids and all of that. So it seems that every decision you make is really intentional.
Yeah, I try to be intentional.
I
I'm a human being though, so I have my faults.
Well, I think a lot of people just kind of go through life and say, whatever happens, and just kind of float through.
Yeah, no, be intentional. Like, make decisions for a reason. You should know why you're doing something and have the justification to back it up, if you're going to be principled about something.
And that helps make those quick decisions that you make on a daily basis, even though you're not deployed now, that you're here at home, when you guys are making decisions about starting a business together or how to grow your business or what direction to take it. It's like, what your purpose is, and you can make a decision based on that purpose.
Yeah. It makes it easier, but definitely not easy.
Yeah.
Along that line of thought, for me, it really kind of came out of my decision to halt my pursuit of the SEAL teams.
Yes.
So when I had a very big life course change like that, which was 4 years of intensive focused work towards that. It was, okay, what, now that pursuit is no longer an option, what do I want out of life? It was just like a completely restructuring of goals and focus and where my life is going to go and the whole trajectory of that. So from that, there have been really positive implication or attributes that have shown up in my life, and just features of it increase, like skill with communication with my wife and with others. And that came from intentional focus on, how do I want to improve myself? What else am I willing to learn? If I'm willing to go and train for 2 years out of a garage and acquire a skill in a sport area, how can I improve myself as an individual professionally, as an entrepreneur, as a husband, as a partner, as a friend? It was just, for me, it became something that I wanted to put hyper focus on self-improvement.
And they're all related, right? I mean, like you mentioned too, because you did halt going forward with buds and things like that to kind of keep your commitment to your wife. And I commend that too, because I mean, as you know, I mean, I think the spouses do make such a huge sacrifice. We have friends, the same thing. It's like they're basically single parents raising families while their spouses are away and they don't know if they're going to come back. That's a huge, and that would put a lot of stress.
Oh, for sure.
I couldn't even imagine. I just couldn't even imagine. Like, I get goosebumps even thinking about it. So, but I think it's all kind of interrelated, like that commitment that you have, I mean, toward whatever it is, whether it's jujitsu or swimming or, you know, flying in a wind tunnel and getting hit with a crowbar.
Less of the last one.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the best guy getting hit in the face with a crowbar. Brian has actually taken steps to be that person. But
well, he was definitely committed in having a partnership with you, like you said. So, I mean, it's really cool to see that you guys are on the same pages, how your lives have taken you in a little bit different path, but you definitely seem to both be really committed to your families. And it seems that your decisions are all based on that, even within your business, this new venture that you guys are in.
Well, and there's give and take. I mean, obviously, you know, we are committed to each other, but we also have priorities outside of like our partnership. But it takes communication. You know, we talk about effective communication being like the foundation to a good team. I mean, I pulled that from my military experience.
For sure.
Communication is critical to our partnership and anything that I'm doing on the outside. If you're not willing to be direct in your communication, I think you already have a losing equation.
I love that. Like, we talk about it all the time because Kenny's such a communicator. He's more of a communicator than I am. He has to pull it out of me. But when we're talking to friends, whether it's about their marriage, if they're having problems, or it's even in a business setting, I feel like a lot of the issues that would arise from business or your relationships, whether it's friends or spouses, is a lack of communication.
Sure.
It's like the number one thing that we talk about. And we've gone to like a marriage counselor for different things in our life. If we're not seeing eye to eye, we're like, we're going to see Doug. So we go, and I love it. Well, and he like punches you in the face with reality. There is no beating around the bush. And I'm like, give it to me, because I don't need to beat around the bush. I just want to get to the point and move forward.
Yeah.
So it's really cool that
nobody
you guys,
should be afraid to have a Doug in their life.
Oh, I love it.
No, I mean, honestly, for us too, we're proactive about it, but we you know, people are like, how do you work together, live together, and do all this? And I said, it's just what you said. It's transparency and communication.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't have that, there's no way we could do this. We'd kill each other.
Resentment forms.
Yeah,
right?
And I'm probably more of the pain in the ass than she is, because I'm more hyper and like things like that. So, no, but Doug was something we should go in. So it was more like, we're coming together instead of like this. And it's the same thing with you guys. When shit goes bad, when shit's good, it's like, yay. But when shit goes bad, you're still partners.
Yeah.
You're still here. You don't want to ruin it. So we're here. We're not going anywhere. So we can't do this. We got to come together.
Yeah. I appreciate our ability to communicate directly makes us good partners. I mean, we go through our ups and downs. We have kind of conflicting viewpoints, but you know, when it comes down to it, as long as we throw it out there, we might not agree.
We've agreed to disagree on many
for sure,
all the time.
But it's better to agree to disagree than to sit there and let it fester.
Exactly,
that's the killer. Yeah.
And I think too, having an open mind with your partner too, just because you have to realize that. At least for me, I'm like, I'm not always gonna be right, so I have to be open to hearing someone else's opinion. And if it works, I mean, I think you can come to that conclusion together.
Sure.
And it still might be that you agree to disagree, but you can do it without holding any sort of resentment or, feeling angry when you go home at night, because that's the worst feeling ever, especially. I mean, your partnership is like a marriage.
It is, for sure.
Yeah.
Business partnerships are a marriage.
100%.
The biggest piece of advice that I came across that was the most helpful to me is identifying unspoken expectations. So to yourself and to your partner, whether it's in a marriage or in a partnership, I mean, you really have to kind of sit down and think about what your expectations that you may not have even identified to yourself.
Right.
And then you have to communicate that to somebody else who is intimately involved in your life and the trajectory that you're going on.
That is so good. I love that. Because I think we all have unspoken expectations. And it's been one of those things that even with us, it's like, if it's an unspoken expectation, the second I realize that it's unspoken, it's like, okay, time to say it now.
Yeah.
And then at least it's out on the table.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I kind of expected him to just know this, but that's not really fair, is
Right.
it?
Yeah, we're all mind readers.
So the
right?
Doug in my life was like, do you want what you want out of life? You can't expect your wife, your partner, whoever to mind read.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
to know what you're thinking. And if you absolutely want that, you have to share that information. You have to share that expectation and then ask for help in getting it met.
Right.
Because otherwise it's just you alone in your head going, I'm not getting this expectation met, or I don't know why I'm frustrated. I'm just frustrated.
Yeah,
And especially
the other
in new
person's like-
ventures. Yeah. Especially, I mean, even when we had a baby, I mean, we went to Doug even before that, but then having a baby, I remember a couple of months in, it was like Kenny's such a morning person. So he would get up with the baby and it was awesome. But then he would have a couple mornings where he'd be like, hey, I've been doing this every day, Crystal, and I expected that you would just know that you should get up a couple days. And I was like
gnarly.
no, but that,
Get up at 2:30 and stay up.
I'm like, but you
So I
said the
wanted to
mornings
work
are your
out.
thing, and
I was
the
like,
nights.
it's so, every once in a while you could say, hey, I was like, this is going on months. She's like, yeah, I guess I could do that. I'm like, you could? Like, yeah.
But for me, I'm like, that was an unspoken expectation.
Yeah.
You had the mornings, I had the nights. I was good with this.
Right.
And it's like, okay, now I need to like duly
It's
noted.
funny because our Doug, I went to this men's group for a couple times. We were kind of talking about it, like just I was dealing with some of my own crap, and kind of always say becoming from a boy to a man, you have that in your life, and dealing with some family stuff. And he gave me this book. It's kind of funny. It's called Hold On to Your Nuts for a Guy.
Okay.
But it's the nuts is the non-negotiables in your life, which is the same thing. So I think a lot of people get together, whether it's business or marriage, anything, and you heavily simply said, hey, I just want to let you know, like for me, we work together, live together. I have to work out every morning. I got to do this. If I don't do this, I'm not going to be able to be a good partner or person to you. And that's one thing we were talking about over there. Like I've come to realize with myself is I've got a lot of energy. I can definitely be moody. And sometimes she's like, can't you just control it? I'm like, no, I'm kind of like a hyena and I can't. So the way I figured it out, I mean, I get up at 3:45 and then I have my routine and it's my time. And I realize I need me time to be a better person for her and Harlow. So that's one of the things I started doing consistently, and it's really changed my life.
Absolutely.
But that is a
Non-negotiable.
like even events in my life, like I'm like, I gotta do this.
I get it. So before my wife and I got married, I was very clear that I was going to pursue a career in the SEAL teams.
Yeah.
So she knew that it was non-negotiable. I mean, that was a part of my life for a long time, like kind of 7th grade on. And then another one for me was bouldering, climbing.
Okay.
That is something that
That's
makes
an outlet. That's your.
it makes me a better version of myself. My wife will attest to the fact that when I'm performing poorly in that regard, everything else in my life suffers. I don't sleep as well. I'm not the nicest person to be around. I just am not as effective working. So like that was something, am I going to be a good version or the best version of myself, I need to be given access to do that. And, it's an understanding that, if I say, hey, I'm going to go train, she lets me go train because she wants to have the best version of her husband, not like this substandard person that's there.
Like wholeheartedly.
That's like
when
your
he's
you
not
time.
working out, even if he's been sick for a couple of days, I'm like, you need to go. Like you just need to go do your thing.
But it's amazing if you haven't,
Yeah.
like whether it's swimming or jiu-jitsu or rock climbing, or for me it'd be surfing or working out. Like if you haven't done it and you go and you get done, you're like, man, it's this that you feel like you go home like, man, you're in a good mood. Of course I'm in a good mood.
Well, you want to be present too.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, I'll go out and spend a day out bouldering in the mountains. And halfway through the day, I'm actually thinking about my kids. I'm like, man, I'd be really stoked to be home right now. I wish I could just like time travel 3 hours back to my house and go have dinner with my son or my daughter or my wife. So, yeah, but your mind clears and you start to refocus kind of
It's
priorities.
funny you say that because it's true. You kind of get the crap out and then all of a sudden all the garbage is out and then what really is there, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. No, it's good. It's healthy. You need to do that.
What's is yours the jiu-jitsu now?
For me, the biggest one is going to be a soccer game. Like, I enjoy playing soccer immensely.
Yet another sport that.
Right. I'm like, okay, this is.
Are you in like Cameron's league?
Yeah, Cameron and I play together.
Oh, okay.
Aldrich, we have a game on Sunday. We'll see if he comes out. He's been missing a few of them.
I know his. When I met Cameron in 2000 and
Like 10,
10. That's when he just blew out his knee. I remember that. Yeah. So that guy's when he's like, I got to get back to surfing. I'm like, it's going to take 6 months. He's like, I'm doing it in 3 months. I'll be back. I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. He's out there surfing. He's just kind of like a maniac like that.
Yeah, he loves the water. But
Yes.
I really like playing with Cameron. He's legit.
And he's like
a good player.
I'm sure it's like you're playing with him or against him or is on the same team.
The same squad, yeah.
Okay, so that's got to be fun because he's like a total athlete, like super competitive. so I'm sure-
Totally.
Yeah, wow, man. He like will blow his knee out to like win the game. Like
Soccer's great because it's kind of this on the pitch, off the pitch understanding where like if certain players are getting fired up and like yelling at you, you're like, that guy's probably a nice dude. He's just, taking it out on the field a little bit. And then you can like shake hands afterwards and be like, hey, sorry, I was just frustrated.
yeah,
And then you're also like getting a good cardio workout in. For me, I've been a cardio animal ever since I can remember, which is why I'm trying to add it more back into my life. Just because like long distance, I used to hate running. Then I kind of, like many people before me, read Born to Run and was just like, I'm going to learn to do this. And then I'm not quite up to Nick's standards.
I know I was gonna ask him about that
because he did that rim to rim 48 miler off the couch at the Grand Canyon.
I don't run anymore, but
I would have died.
I choose to do stupid things every now and then.
Yeah,
and that was a stupid decision.
What'd you do?
So I had a good friend of mine that was a SEAL. Is out now. He decided to do a rim to rim. So. Like 44-ish miles. So you go, south. You can go either way, but south rim to the bottom, up to the north rim, back down, and then back up south rim. So I didn't train at all. I used to ultra run and be way into endurance sports, and I've been focused on short burn bouldering. Not doing much running whatsoever.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so I suffered. I think I was sponsored by ibuprofen for the last 23 miles.
Oh my god.
So your comment earlier about not taking anything, well, I typically am like that, but I took like
had to.
I took like way more than I think people would tell you is safe.
How was that after? Just recovery stuff.
I had gnarly. I think for me it wasn't. So I was prepped. I could handle all the cardio, all the up and down, all that stuff. I had. One of my knees was just out of alignment. I found out after the fact. So I got gnarly tendonitis in my left knee. So I just had to deal with tendonitis in my left knee that was really, really, really bad for like the second half. But I got through it. I got a good deep tissue guy that we go to.
Is he in Mission Valley or no?
This guy, Kearney Mesa.
Off of Claremont.
Okay.
Kelly Schlager.
Schlager. He's like the best. He's like,
period.
Yeah, period.
He'll work it out.
Oh yeah, and it's not fun. Those are difficult sessions
but he's like,
with him. But
you came here to get this worked out.
He fixed me. I had like 2 sessions with him, and I was like back to normal. But my decision to do that off the couch was not smart.
That's wild.
I mean, at 4 miles, I'm like, are we almost done? Like,
yeah, performance was. I don't know. We got through it, but it's a good gut check every now and then. So I don't mind doing.
You like to do something a little bit that scares you or pushes your limits.
Yeah, no, I mean I think that's healthy. I think you should get outside of your comfort zone.
No.
Test yourself regardless of what it is. professionally, physically.
I think people underestimate what they can do.
For sure.
As you would know, because you're more, you did all this crazy training and what you had to, and you're doing this combat, which is, I think it was interesting. I was listening to the podcast with you, but you're saying the one thing is some people in training are not that great, but then they get on the field and you're like, You're like they're like the performer.
Yeah.
And then the guy that's killing at training, you're like, you gotta, like, that's just, it's like I know
Well,
you're
it's like some
talking
people
about,
are book smart and some people are street smart. It's just like, I think.
When you see that too in
Yeah.
sports, it's amazing. Some people on training, like, they get out there, you're like, where'd this guy come out of?
I had teammates like that all the time. They just goof off in the water all day long, show up to their meet,
Kill it.
and they just murder it, and they go to like Olympic trials and stuff like that. And I'm like, I don't know where that come from, but I want it. I want that in my life because I'm hard worker. Like every single practice, never skip a set, and they just outperform me.
Yeah, do you think that's just like a I don't give an F mindset? Like, just when they get out there, they're just like, because sometimes people would say it's not just natural ability, you know? Like, it's
swimming, I feel, is a little bit of an exception. Because there's people that don't touch the water for years and can still just jump back in and hold their base.
That's natural ability, though, right?
Oh, yeah. This guy, Corwin, I swam with, he lives in Santa Barbara now. I mean, I guarantee you he could get in the water right now and do like 100-100s, the first 50 on the 110 right now. Like, he's a freak. He's a freak. Love that guy, though.
Those
but
people,
he's
right?
just
You
like...
just go run with them. I haven't run in 3 years.
I haven't run
10 miles.
I ran
like
16 miles, and I'm going to do a rim to rim to rim.
Yeah, well, here, this is what I would say. I think the people that do that, maybe swimming might be a little bit different, but people that are able to just turn it on like that, they did at some point in their life put in the work, right? Yeah. So like, for instance, I put a lot of miles in for a lot of years. I guess I consider it like my base that I will always have.
Right.
Yeah, sure.
I have blown off running as a focus, but I can go back to it because I've been there before.
The mindset.
And the mindset too, right? I mean, I have that base, but I also have the mindset. And I think the mindset is the tough part to get. I mean, when I was running kind of like ultra distance stuff, I mean, I found quickly that stuff was mostly mindset. You have people now that are crushing these things. They're just phenomenal athletes, but have been attracted to that sport. But your ability to just gut it out. And like, I talked to my daughter a lot about grit, the ability to just tough it out when things are not good and you don't want to do something. I think that quality is something that I would rather see that in my kids than athletic prowess and talent.
Right.
So I think that grit is like, that's the mindset. It's like, you can turn it on and be like, okay, hey, I may be ill prepared, but I can suck it up and I can gut it out. And it's hard to measure, right?
I'm good at suffering.
Yeah, I'm good at suffering.
I mean, people, like, if you look at people that are not athletic, didn't go to school, but they built amazing companies.
Mm-hmm.
And you've heard their stories of up and down and almost lost everything. Like, it's like that marathon.
So they have grit.
They just, right?
Yeah.
That's why they know. They're just like, I don't need to be smart. I can just out-grit you.
Yeah. They didn't throw their hands up in the air or blame other people. They held themselves personally accountable, whether that's externally or internally. And they just decided that they were going to move on and be successful.
When you're pushing yourself, I mean, you're a leader too. When you're pushing yourself, and people are just want to quit or give in. I mean, and you were there too. Like, when you get over that, do you feel like your body starts to realize, like, wait a minute, I can push past this? But also, is when you push past that point where the first time where you never, like, I don't think I'm going to be able, and you did. Does your body just automatically, like, because I think I pushed myself, but never to a point where it's like, I'm going to pass out. And some people, next thing you know, they go run another 40 miles. I'm like, how do you do that?
So I remember how painful it is all the time. I mean, even when I get back in it, I mean, like, for instance, we went out and did that Grand Canyon event.
Yeah, you had to have been there, right? Like, yeah,
no, definitely I got there again. And I wasn't even pushing it like a pace that would have been like a PR for me. Like, 10 years earlier, we might have done that thing, 7 hours faster. We did it in like 17 hours, which was just like basically a fast hike. I was suffering during that 17 hours worse than I had suffered in like previous like 50 milers where I did them in like 9 hours. Wow. So like, but getting to that point, it's like every time you get there, regardless of whether or not you know that you've been here before and you've pushed past it,
still have that feeling.
It's like, yeah, you got to gut it out. It's like, you don't just like have grit once.
And then you're past.
And then you're like, okay, I checked that box. So like, I'm good. So I'm going to be able to just gut it out and grit. It's like every single time. Like it doesn't get easier.
Is it when you get past that, is it getting easier? You're just gritting the whole time.
I mean, I'm gritting. Like there wasn't a point where like, I'm like, man, this is really tough. Mile 24 to 26. But yeah, no, it was like, I suffered the entire time. And like, you get to a point, you're like, okay, I'm going to but I
So you
I
just
feel
get
like,
used to the suffering.
yeah,
kind of.
I think you get used to it. And I
Yeah.
think for me, it's almost like I've been making deposits in the bank, or I've been. Let's put an instance. For instance, I made a terrible decision with like a condo that I bought in '05, but we have now stayed the course and we've held on to that thing and we've been paying the mortgage down and dealing with getting renters in there and all that stuff. Now I'm like, I feel like I'm past the point of no return. Like I'm committed to this thing.
Yeah.
I'm just going to continue to reap the benefit of the deposits that I've been making.
Right.
And I could relate that to grit, in a bad, tough situation. Let's say I've been gutting it out for 6 hours already. I might as well do it for another 6 hours, because the last 6 would have been worthless and not worth the investment that I
So
put
what
in.
are you telling yourself?
I break things, physically, for instance, in that situation, I was breaking it down, or me and my buddy were breaking it down into 500 feet of elevation gain and however long it's going to take us to make it through that. So I said, like, hey, we're going to do another 500 feet. And then we hit that 500 feet, we will stop for 30 seconds, eat something or drink something, and then move on. So I think breaking things up into
Steps.
palatable steps.
Yeah.
Because you can't think about, I got 24, you got to think about
Because
we're
you'll
going.
just quit with that.
Yeah, it's too much.
I love it. That was a great event for me to go through. Even though it was physical, it brought me back to kind of reminding me what I need to be doing on the professional side. Because for me, I think the physical side is almost easier. Like that's what I knew as a SEAL in the military is the physical mental toughness part. But on the professional side, it's not as easy for me. Like I have a tougher time breaking things down into tangible bites that I can tackle, that are manageable. Much easier doing that physically for me than it is in that other construct.
I could see that. It's a different sort of like mental toughness and
Well, it's a new area
endurance. Yeah.
for me.
Just like running versus, bouldering or jujitsu or whatever it might be. It's a little bit, it's like similar, but different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Physical toughness, there's all these miles, all this yardage, all this whatever built up. So it's super easy. Like, oh, I know this pain. I know this suffering. Like, I'll just grind through it. It's not a big deal. Over here in this other field, professionally, starting a new business, like going through all these growth things, setting up the service disabled veteran owned designation, DVB, learning about government tracking. It's all new stuff. And the grit translates, but it's in a new field, so it feels more uncomfortable.
Right.
But it's still like approaching it with a growth mindset versus like out in, it's inward out. What are my controllables? What can I break down? It's a little bit harder because you can't see, you don't know where the finish line is.
Right. It's not like a map, like a clear roadmap.
Yeah, exactly. Or a set or workout or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, one of my, I might screw it up. Monty might have to help. One of my favorite quotes is, it's by, who's it by?
Gotta say it first.
The Lights.
Oh. Yeah.
Who's the guy?
He's an author.
No, he's
really
a pastor
good. Yeah,
here. He was
Christian
a pastor
guy.
here. David Maxwell or what?
John Maxwell. I
John
think.
Maxwell.
Yep.
He, for like in life or business, he says, a car light, if you have to go 3 miles, a car light only shines 300 feet in front of you.
Yeah.
So you don't know anything business, what's ahead. So most people, they're just scared to go past that point. So we're going 3 miles. Where are we going? I don't know. We're just going. And you can only see this much, but you got to go all the way. And it's like, that's kind of like, when we did, we started buying real estate, we started buying bigger real estate. And then when you buy it and then you go rehab it, it's just capital. And then we would get a couple projects, a couple times, we were pushing ourselves so hard. We were like, down to no money. Everything's on the credit cards, and we know, this thing's gonna work out. And then we've done this episode over and over, and then it does get a little bit easier because you've been through it. But every time you go there, you're like, why am I putting myself here again? But you're like, oh, the reward. But it's so we kind of know that gut, where it's like you're pushing yourself to have this big gain, let's say financially or with real estate. But your funds are going to go back up. But it's like, we know that pretty well.
Yeah, but it is interesting because even for us, it's easy for us to push ourselves in certain areas and not in others. You know, there's certain things where you're just like, oh, you don't even want to go there, but you know you should. But it's really hard to push yourself to that limit. And then there's other things where you're like, yeah, I'll go down to like putting things on credit cards and then we'll get it back up. You know, so it's just, I think for all of us, it's that struggle. This is a cool conversation for us because I think it's a reminder that like, okay, what is it that we're putting off today that we should be pushing ourselves on?
Yeah.
And what is it that we need to do? Because it's easy to get comfortable in doing the things that you're already comfortable being uncomfortable in.
Yeah, you build comfort through experience,
yes,
right?
Exactly.
So if you always are uncomfortable with something, it's because you lack the experience.
Exactly.
Just to push yourself into that uncomfortable spot. Yeah,
exactly.
I totally see it.
Yeah, I mean, that's just, you know, we have goals. So to get there, it's like we're going to continue to put ourselves in uncomfortable. But then it actually starts to becoming kind of fun because when there was, you know, you see the results, it's worth it, right?
Yeah.
But the process sometimes is not.
It never gets easy,
No.
right?
Yeah.
It's always difficult. It doesn't matter.
Things will happen.
Yeah.
Unexpected. There's always unexpected, you know? It's just how it works.
If it is easy, you probably are not pushing hard enough.
Exactly.
No.
And even pushing yourself becomes easy in certain aspects. So whether it's buying real estate or whatever, it's like that becomes easy. And then it's like, okay, how else now do I need to push myself? Because that's pretty easy now.
Yeah.
Like we've done that, you know, 20 times. Now it's like, what else do we need to do to push ourselves?
It's like go bigger for us. That's what it is now. It's like we just bought a 30 unit. Now we're like, okay, we need to go buy a 50 unit or like that's the next. And so everybody's like, I'm just trying to buy a 2 unit. I'm like, we were there. Now I'm here. A 2 unit's boring. This doesn't do anything. It's like you going, let's go run 2 miles. You're like, let's just go run 20. Like,
right.
Well, I don't run 20. Well, you're going to do it. We're just get it over with, you know?
So you guys started Range Partners now. Was that in August?
It was in
like
August.
very recent? Okay,
Yeah.
Cool. And so you guys are doing kind of similar to what your background was before, like leasing and acquisitions is it all commercial, like basically industrial? And
All commercial.
Yeah.
So it's called tenant representation or buyer representation. It's on the commercial side. So representing corporations predominantly in their real estate needs. That's it. You know, focus solely on that. But with the new partnership, you know, maybe looking at some other targets of opportunity within the government world. You know, with the designation that we were able to accrue, and then looking at some larger Fortune 500 business that is looking at diverse supplier relationships and bringing kind of a boutique diverse supplier into the mix.
Very cool.
We may be small, but we have the competence and capability to do a really good job for people.
Yeah, I think would you say that that's kind of what makes you guys different though? Because a lot of the tenant representation firms that are out there are pretty large firms. So you don't get that boutique kind of customer service, personal feel.
I mean, when we if we're selling against somebody else or competing against somebody else in a larger firm, I mean, what I like to always say is, you know, you are going to deal with me or Brian, not the large company that the other person works for. Just because they have a lot of size behind them doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get like this inordinate amount of value from that large organization. You're going to be interacting with the person that is representing you on that transaction. You need to be able to look them in the eye, trust that they know what they're doing, and they're going to do the best job possible for you. So that's what we sell ourselves. You know, you are getting us when you hire us.
You're not going to get our assistant or third person that you've never met. Yeah.
Yeah, we swing our own
Once
hammer,
I bring it in the door, like I'm gone.
Right. Yeah. We're not segmented. We're not big enough to segment it up like that. Like we choose clients that we want to represent and that want to work with us. And when we have that mutual trust and loyalty, it works. And that's who we want to work with.
I feel like, I mean, at least for me and my experience with us and our clients, like that's one of the things that people love working with us is that we're small. And I think that mentality has kind of come back because there are so many big firms out there that it begins to feel really impersonal. And you kind of like get this person that you really like at first and then they're gone and you're like, hey, what happened to that person? I came with you because that person was going to fight for me and they really sold me on this. So I feel like the small business feel and that kind of specialized feel is becoming really much more respected and sought after nowadays. And it's really cool because it's something that you guys really love and want to do, and people get to kind of feel that directly from you from start to finish. It's like a real relationship.
Yeah, it should be, right? We spend so much of our time working. You should be authentic and real in your approach in business.
And honestly, I think like, you know, the fact that you guys go out and you're on your own and you're smaller, clients, if smart clients are kind of like, well, this big company over here has all this traffic coming in, and they've got to deal with a lot more traffic and a lot more transactions and a lot of people wasting their time. And over here is like, you guys really, if you're going to do business, you need to do a great job, because like, we want to, huge expectation because we want a referral.
For sure.
And that's how we are. We're like referral driven, but these big companies, sometimes they go in there thinking, oh, I'm going to go here because it's the place to go. They don't have a good experience. I'm never going to go back there with us. They don't have a good experience. We take it personal. It's huge, you know, like I'm sure you guys are. These big ones, like, we'll just have another one come in.
Yeah.
And I think, and two, with these big firms, a lot of these brokers coming in, it's like a revolving door.
Yeah.
They're coming in and out. They're moving around because they're not happy.
Yeah.
You know, they were sold on something that they're going to go in there and get all this, and it's not true. So, I mean, we just had Bill Anderson on here with Acre, and I think that's the same thing as, you know, a lot of these guys left the bigger firms that are selling apartment buildings, and at first, you know, it was struggling, and then all of a sudden they're like a name now in San Diego, but they built that, but it's like they're competition to the big guys now.
Yeah.
And they know, like, you know, these deals matter, you know, and I think the deals matter sometimes more when you're just, it's your company. You did it. I don't know why. It's just a thing.
Well, and it's a little bit different too, being your own business. I mean, it's like you're more concerned about doing a good job for the client than you are going after the commission or the paycheck. It's more like that all comes when you do a great job for someone. So I'm not focused on that. Yeah. If you're unhappy, I'm going to do whatever it takes to make you happy.
100%. I mean, that's Brian and I, our mantra is that. I mean, it's like the client is what matters. The commission is ancillary.
Right.
You know, we are at every single time, if we need to do something, it's going to be for the better of the client.
Right.
And if that means foregoing a portion of a fee, that's like, I could care less, because our reputation is going to be what carries us forward.
For long term.
For sure. Yeah.
We say,
and that's just bigger
relationships over transactions.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, bigger thinking though, too, because if you can make it right, I mean, we've even had it in the past where we've made it right for a client, and we've gotten referrals afterwards because we made it right. You know, something didn't go quite as planned, but we made it right, whether it was crediting a fee or taking care of them or waiving a fee, whatever it might be. But then you get that referral and you save that relationship. I mean, who cares about the money if you don't have the relationship anymore?
Yeah.
And San Diego's such a small business place.
It is.
We've done it time and again. And to your point about like bigger thinking. So we wanted to kind of disrupt the commercial industry. It seems like it's this old cog, just moves so slowly, and it's kind of out of the dark ages, at least when I look at it.
Yes.
100%.
Just this old beast that's been there forever. So when I looked at it, I was like, what can we do to leverage ourselves as entrepreneurs and our mindsets to kind of grow and be different? So that was one of the things that led us to the Service Disabled Veteran Owned and Disabled Veteran Business Enterprises designations. They don't necessarily, it's not like it's going to open up some magical gate for you, but they do matter. And to the clients that they matter to are generally those that are larger, more focused on veteran communities or procurement and creating more positive change. So as long as the relationship is there, we feel that they're going to see some value in that. And then in addition to that, we wanted to make a commitment to philanthropy to support the foundations that Nick is on as a board member and that I support in my free time. So we donate 10% of every single commission to a foundation of our clients' choosing. That's so cool. It's just ways to add more value to clients, to show them that we care about them versus just slinging deals and slamming stuff home just to make fat checks. Like, that's not who we are at all.
And you guys are, I mean, in Crystal too, I'm in residential financing, so it's more transactional, even though I can have a client that I'd work with for a while. You know, in commercial like her, you could have a client that might want to come here and buy or rent a lot of space. And they're going to test you on one. Like, oh, by the way, we need to rent like 4 more of those. And you're like, oh, sweet. And same with her, where you could have a big client that really just changes your life financially.
For sure, 100%.
Like that's how it is. Like even in the people we know that sell apartment buildings, like some people are like, they get the one, all of a sudden like, yeah, we're going to sell all these and we're going to buy these. And they're just having like, oh, it's just, but it's 5-10 years of, okay, you put in the work and then all of a sudden things happen. That's what you guys will probably.
So a lot of the time, people in our industry won't work with certain corporations because they're too small. They won't help them find office space, industrial space, flex space, whatever, because they're just too tiny and they won't move the needle. We don't feel that way about that. So we'll help people off. We've done it several times for free, for no commissions whatsoever, because they might send us a referral, because they might grow. I mean, Nick has a solid grip load of clients that he's grown from a broom closet to thousands and thousands of square feet.
That's
tens
awesome.
of thousands. I mean,
But it's making a commitment because like we want to make the same commitment to a 500 square foot office user as we would to a 50,000 foot office
You
user.
treat them the
And
same.
they should, you know.
Absolutely.
You
Yeah.
treat them the same. You give them the same service. It's like, that's what it is. When you were there from the beginning and then you're here 10 years, the relationship, because you helped them, it's like somebody calls them, they're like, I'm sorry.
Yep.
I got 10 years. Like, I'm sorry. That's just how it is.
I
Like,
care more about like, hey, what does that person think of me?
Uh.
If I go see them, I see them at like a Starbucks or wherever, you know, the last thing I want is somebody to be like, man, that guy really let me down. Like, I never want to let people down. That's been kind of like the story of my life. Like,
for sure.
You know,
Yeah.
that was people asking
that
me
was
about
survival for you guys.
Well,
yeah.
people ask me about, hey, what was the glue that held like a combat unit together? And like, I think it was the concept of letting somebody down. Like, nobody that I have ever worked with in that capacity and now is like wants to let somebody down.
Like you all felt that sense of
Oh,
responsibility.
for sure, more so than
Yeah.
like, I mean, even more so than like dying. Like, I mean, to make it extreme, I mean, being overseas, like the thought of letting somebody down and not holding up your end of the bargain was more terrifying than, you know, maybe the concept of like, you know, getting
Death.
shot.
Yeah.
Something like that. I mean, and it's reality. I don't think I'm being dramatic at all. I can tell you in the moment, that's what I was thinking about. I was thinking about making sure I hold up my end of the bargain and I fulfill my role and my responsibilities to the best of my capability.
But that's why the team is so successful, right? Because everybody feels the same way.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you have to, and it, you know, easy to say about the SEAL teams or any combat unit. On the outside, it's finding the right person or people to partner with and the
blind
right
to it.
groups to partner with as clients.
Yeah, it's funny. I think I always kind of say that it's like a 30-unit SEAL team can beat a 300-unit Army and somewhere else. It's like because they're just so disorganized and they're not thinking like that. You guys are like, we know where we're going, what we're thinking. We got each other's backs, and that's why I say when it comes to companies, it's like you could have a big, massive company and it's like a mess, or you could just be small, lean, and mean and do a lot of damage.
Yeah.
Right. Just because you know. Like you have this, you know each other's unspoken truths or whatever you say. You just know
Unspoken expectations.
Yeah, we go this
Yeah.
way, but you just know.
Yeah,
this
you've
about each
communicated effectively, and you know loyalty exists there. I mean, loyalty is something
Yeah.
that it's very, very difficult to. I have found it difficult to find on the outside.
other. That's
Absolutely.
and we were talking about that earlier.
Yeah.
I was saying how like a lot of I see that like it doesn't matter any form of the military. You come out and they're like. It's like a letdown. It's like ugh, I'm back in the reality of because this reality is completely different.
I got used to trusting everybody implicitly and like just saying, hey, I am going to give that person or that group the benefit of the doubt. They will be loyal to me. There will be mutual respect and loyalty. Not always the case, but to your comment, like the reason a small element is capable of, you know, doing really, really great things that are magnitudes larger than their size is because that loyalty exists. And when that loyalty exists, people are willing to go above and beyond. So that the capacity that you get with a small group is exponentially more effective because, you know, people are going to be committed. You know, if that loyalty doesn't exist within a team, and I don't care if it's in the military or out in the private sector, like people are they're going to punch the clock. They're going to do their 9 to 5 and then they're out of there and they forget about it. When you have like serious loyalty within a team, people are going to work tirelessly. They're going to put in the extra effort. They're going to be, on comms, 24/7 to get the job done because they don't want to let their buddy down. So, I think that's the differentiator.
No, I agree.
And it is a tough thing to find. I think a lot of large companies struggle with that very thing. Even when you have small teams within a company, it's hard. There's people on the team that are in disagreements or don't like each other or maybe have other items on their agenda. They're not focused. It's really, really tough. I think that's like a corporate culture it's a tough,
very tough to figure out.
It is.
Again, it's really hard. You're not going to put everybody through a selection process to get the idea.
And even when you try, it's tough.
It's hard, yeah.
Because some people put a good front on, a good sales pitch on, then you come in.
I always say the representative is always great, and it's like you always meet the representative, and they always say all the right things, and then it's like wait until you get in here.
Get in the weeds and get stressed out.
Wait till it's game time to perform, right? And then we hit it's like like you said. It's in real estate. You deal with fire drills. It's always something in real estate, right? It's just it's so many moving parts. Yeah. You think it's not, but there's we didn't know the building had, environment. It's like what? Just something, it's always So you got to be ready.
And you have to rely on people outside your team, which can be challenging at times because they're not on your same page.
Oh yeah. Internal teams on the client side, internal teams on the landlord side. Yes. It's a very delicate act to balance.
Choose your partners wisely.
Yes.
Regardless of whether they're internal or they're external.
Oh, no, for sure.
So are you guys selective with your clients too?
I think so. Yeah. You know what? Hey, we lose clients and we win clients. If we lose a client, I never want it to be because we did a terrible job.
Right.
If I lose a client because there was a lack of loyalty and they got distracted by the next shiny object out there, I personally feel good about it. I'm glad that that relationship ended because it was going to end at some point. And I want somebody that sees the value that we bring to the table, and I want to have that mutual respect and loyalty because I want to be more than just a broker. Brian and I want to be more than just their tenant rep broker.
Right.
We want to be there to support them throughout their, kind of growth cycle. And even like personally beyond kind of the professional side, if there's things that we can do to elevate their business or elevate them personally and make introductions. That's something that we want to bring to the table. We want to be a full spectrum partner for the people that we're doing business with.
No, I think that's smart. Like Crystal and I, our thing is I think one of the things why we're so successful with the real estate part is we've done the financing. We had a property management company. We had 1,000 units. We sold that. So that was a lot of work, but it was more, we wanted to do it. Even though it wasn't fun, we wanted to do it because we wanted to learn that part of the business. And then you have the acquisition and the rehab and all that. So when you take a real estate transaction from here to here, we've done it a million times and we've done it. We've lived it. We breathe it.
Yep.
And so what you're saying is what's cool is if we close a transaction alone and they know like, hey, I got a question about management. I got a question about this tenant. I got a question about insurance. I got a question about this kind of rehab. Do you think this is too much? Since they know we've done it all, they keep calling us back for this. And then obviously they're like, do you have an insurance agent? Do you have this? And the people we place them with, they're loyal to us. They have our back. And they're going to give them good service because we know. And that's like you said, it's just full circle. So the more you can say, call me for anything. Yeah. They call you. You don't have to call somebody else. It just keeps that relationship tighter and tighter, which in longevity is good for business.
Well, I want to consider them a friend too.
Right, exactly.
Well, that's the other thing is you're doing dinners and then you're like, hey, let's go do something fun. And, exactly.
I've personally gone to clients' houses and trained their dogs.
There you go. The dog train.
You definitely need to
Caesar
train our
Milan.
dog.
Yeah.
We have a dog that needs training big time. We tried to Caesar Milan them.
Yeah, I'm gonna take him.
You don't have to Caesar Milan him.
He's actually really good. He's a very talented dog trainer.
So I want to see. Zoe will be a challenge.
I don't know.
5 minutes.
I swear to God, you guys don't believe us. You will.
Here. Oh, that'd have been great.
Wow.
We might have to do like a live episode of that or something. Like a video. I gotta see.
We need to do this because she is a total challenge for us. But I know for the right person, she'd be like.
It's an added benefit of using range partners for your tenant rep.
There you go. Right there.
So you get a dog trainer.
Toy poodle for God's sake.
So
it's like how hard could it be?
The reason why we're gonna use you is because we have an office dog and he's terrible and we need. Oh yeah, sure, that comes with it. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't can't hire Brian. He doesn't take clients for dog training, but you can hire him as your broker.
Oh my gosh.
That's typically how it goes, though. As people just like we connect, they start telling me about their dog. We end up training their dog together. And then they're like, "Oh, I need office space," and I'm like, "Well, we do that too."
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, he's not lying. He's like, we actually have one client that way.
I wanted to talk about you call it the skincare company or the sunscreen company. I just wanted to talk about like how you guys just briefly how being involved with that and building the brand, how that's kind of helping you in your business now, like that aspect of it.
Yeah, no, I think so. It was involved with a sunscreen company that I co-founded. I think that building that brand, it's different. Like, so on the service provider side, I think it's tough. I mean, I don't think a lot of people take brand building seriously. And when you're looking at consumer packaged goods, you have to be really good at it.
Yeah.
Because you're not pitching. You know, you don't get to go in there and pitch the person that's buying that little
That's
product.
a competitive market too.
Super competitive,
So
right?
the packaging has to sell itself.
Packaging needs to be like on point. Your messaging has to be on point. Your partners, in order to market, have to be like the best. It has to be super efficient. And you're constantly learning, and that whole world is constantly evolving. So it made me so much sharper on that. I think I'm more in tune with the importance of marketing and branding and messaging. And that was something that we wanted to bring to bear as we founded Range Partners is, you know, we don't want to just be another commercial real estate brokerage firm.
I mean, Range Partners is a unique name. And obviously I was going to ask, do clients go, "Hey, what's
Range?" Yeah.
Do they?
No, for sure. I mean, people always think
gun
range. You know, my background in the military. Not the case. Yeah. I mean, kind of, I guess in a way it's part of it, but you know, we look at range as breadth of experience. There's actually a book called Range.
Okay.
It served as a bit of inspiration for our name. And the premise of that, you know, that book was breadth of experience and late stage specialization are going to be kind of accretive to success in kind of an age where like AI and machine learning are starting to take hold, where you can't just be an early stage specialist and expect to be successful for the rest of your life. You know, people expect you to know a lot about a lot of different things. And it exemplified exactly what Brian and I bring to the table. You know, neither of us were early stage specialists in real estate. We both had our paths that we shared earlier, that we accrued a lot of really cool experiences. And that experience, you know, even building a brand, has now led us to this point where we can be, you know, deep specialists in commercial real estate brokerage for corporations, and bring a lot to the table. I mean, we bring range because, you know, I understand kind of the fundraising process. I understand the brand building process. I understand having employees and all the things that come with that. I'm not just, hey, I'm the tenant rep broker that surveys the market and negotiates your lease for you.
Yeah, there's a lot more behind it.
You can lean on me for, you know, a lot of things. I mean, leadership, you know, kind of consulting and all of that. I mean, I can have deep conversations about a lot of stuff. So that was really the premise of Range Partners. You know,
and the messaging is really on point for you guys because I mean, your website is really direct. Like when you read, I could tell that it was very intentional and it is very direct. And the fact that you guys do have, like, you're sort of whole people, right? Like, because I think when you go to a lot of people's websites and read their bios or where they came from, it's just this business thing. We went here and then I love playing soccer and long walks on the beach, you know? And it's like, you're not really a whole person. And so for you guys, it's really cool to see that you have had all these experiences and you kind of put it out there on the forefront and people have that level of comfort up front. Like you have all these skills and all these great things that you've done, which is awesome, but you're also just this person or these people that have done all these great things that now tie into your goals today.
No, I appreciate it.
A couple levels to that for us. I mean, it was one that was part of the disrupting the industry for us. We didn't want to like throw up another like stereotypical commercial site and just embrace the stereotypical branding. And then I have always found that vulnerability begets vulnerability from people. So sharing those stories about ourselves with our clients, with people, it it just leads to
They connect.
faster relationships, and
real.
you connect better.
Yeah.
You connect faster, and business spurs out of that relationship as a symptom of it rather
Right.
than the sole focus.
Yeah.
So you're not going for the hard sell. Like basically it's like you
No.
guys have
No.
these things that you connect with people on
Yeah.
and they genuinely like you and
Yeah.
want to work with you because of that first.
We like
If
to
somebody-
think so.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
somebody sees us as a
Very good.
commodity and they treat us as such,
Yeah.
you know, if we go in and we're interviewing and we're treated as, hey, you guys are just a commodity commercial real estate broker, it probably isn't the right fit, because I would rather see somebody connect with us on a personal level and understand who we are and the depth of experience that we bring to the table, and feel, I mean, be excited about a partnership with us, because they know, man, this is awesome. I get these guys, they get to work for me, represent me on a commercial lease transaction. I don't have to pay them, because in our industry, you know, the landlord, the owner of the building, pays commissions, and I'm going to have these awesome teammates that get to fully integrate with my, you know, my team, you know, whoever I'm delegating that responsibility to, you know, they become part of our team. And, you know, the companies that have become loyal to us, they truly see that value. I mean, I get brought into conversations, you know, with CEOs, CFOs, COOs, talking about company culture and leadership,
yeah.
and, you know, talking through some of the stuff that they're discussing within kind of the confines of the C-suite. I mean, it's awesome. They recognize that value, and because I can bring value to those conversations, they're super loyal,
Yeah.
and they're stoked that, you know, we're part of the team. Those are the kind of relationships and the kind of clients that we want. You know, I don't want somebody that wants to interview 3 brokers every single time their lease comes up for renewal. You know, if that's the case, then it's not the right dynamic.
Yeah. Do you find that when you're meeting with new clients, though, people are like a little like they got something they didn't expect? Because I think a lot of people are interviewing and then they're like, oh, these guys are different.
Always to the positive, though.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you get it from like, I mean, there are rare exceptions where we'll show up in like a button down, but most of the time they're like, oh, these guys are pretty laid back from inception.
I mean, I think the picture of it's still up. I mean, our website's
It
kind
is.
of, we have an initial website up now, but I mean, we're you know, rebuilding, bettering that.
Just
Constant
viable.
improvement. Yeah, minimal viable website. But I think the picture that I have up on there is like, I'm in like a C4 foundation shirt with, I think, this hat, or yeah, actually I
Probably.
think the hat that I'm wearing right now. But like sitting there, and I've had people say like, man, you look pretty intimidating. Like, your picture. It's not like the typical like
Yeah.
button down, like
Yeah.
suit and tie, like smiling at the camera.
Yeah.
And but you know what? That, you know, what you see is what you get. Like I would rather present an authentic version
No,
of
I
us.
Doesn't it feel so not like you if you have to, when you wear a suit? Because I'm sure you have worn
I
them and it's
feel
like,
totally like an imposter when I'm wearing a suit.
It
and
like
feels
tie.
I feel
weird.
like so uncomfortable when people show up here in suits.
Right.
For me, I'm like, you should just like take that tie off and your jacket and just chill. Because
Hey, there's a right time and a right
Yeah.
place, and if I need to
Right.
wear it because it is
You do, yeah.
appropriate, great, but it is not who I am. It's not who we are.
yeah,
And
it's like wearing a
again,
costume.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're basically
And the
wearing-
costume
yeah.
isn't going to define the quality of what
Right.
we're going to do for you as a client.
Yeah.
So.
Luckily, we're in Southern California, and that's like totally the vibe here. I think that there's some of the bigger firms that are still having people wear suits, but generally speaking, I think on any given day, a client would show up for us in like flip flops and board
For
shorts.
sure.
You know, it's like not a big deal.
I do a V-neck with a sport jacket if I want to get
I like that.
super dressed up.
Yeah.
That's like my San Diego tuxedo.
Yeah,
Um,
that's about as much I think anybody should do, honestly.
guys, thanks for coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know
of
it's-
course. Thank you for having us.
We went pretty.
We could probably keep going
Yeah, I know.
too. Is the
It's
thing.
fun.
At
Yeah.
any time.
Um,
You guys are
where
awesome.
where would anybody, like, basically to break it down, where would people find you? And then do you guys have specific clients you're looking for? Are you guys just kind of, is it open, and where would somebody find you?
Sure. So, I mean, we plant our flag around the office space
Okay.
primarily.
Okay.
And then we'll use industrial and flex to augment that.
Okay.
People are looking for a more affordable option of office space and they can't afford UTC, like primo space.
Yeah.
Then we'll put them in like a flex situation or a creative industrial. Because
Okay.
like your guys' office, we want it to be pretty legit and make them feel at home in that space. So there's creative options for everybody, but it's always kind of anchoring around like your office use type tenant.
So if you lease office space, you're in it now, you're looking for office space. I mean, we are specialists in representing tenants, so the user of office space in lease negotiations.
Perfect.
Predominantly. Okay. And if you're out there and you're looking to buy a building, I mean, that's what we do as well. Okay. But most of our clients are leasing space until they get to a point in their company's existence
they want to buy
where it makes sense to buy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
and some of those acquisitions are really complex. There's one client that I've been working with for a while now that's trying to do like youth outreach, youth support, military family support, all sorts of creative uses under one roof. Not a ton of buildings that'll support that. So if it's complex, that's right up our alley.
Okay.
Love those ones.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then rangepartnersSD.com is our website.
Yeah.
So that's the easiest way to find us.
Cool.
And then it's, Nick at Range Partners SD and Brian at Range Partners SD as in San Diego.com.
Yeah, those are our emails. You can go decide whether or not Nick looks intimidating.
Yeah, I've had listing broker friends of mine say like, man, you look pretty intimidating in your picture.
Oh my gosh, they probably know the seal thing.
I'm about as far from intimidating as you get.
That's
I'm
so
5'6", 155 pounds.
That's
I'm
awesome.
the most intimidating person.
Well, it's been so awesome having you guys on. Honestly,
Yeah,
it was
fun.
it was just genuinely like a really great conversation.
Yeah, I totally enjoyed it.
Cool.
Stoked to meet you guys.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Appreciate the time.
Yeah.
Us as well.